Last year, Fox introduced the all-new Grip X and Grip X2 dampers. This year, Fox is introducing brand new all the rest of the fork, and this is making for the front end we're all excited for. Now, I want to give a huge thanks to my friends over at Jensen USA. Jensen is a top online retailer in the United States of America for not just Fox suspension, but a whole plethora of top brands. I've got a link in the description below over to this 36 all-mountain fork at Jensen USA, and you can read about the pricing, weight, specifications, all the details over there at Jensen. Furthermore, anything you purchase from that link below, that'll help support my channel. It's a huge part of how we make these videos possible. Big thanks to Jensen, and big thanks to all of you for tuning in and watching my stuff here. Let's jump into the video. These are not the forks that Jensen is selling. They get brand new ones still in boxes that have not been tossed in the yard. And for transparency, huge thanks to Fox for giving me both forks you'll see in this video here. That's Logan right there. At this point, mountain bike forks are all really good, which means we are now collectors, but not of stamps or taxidermied animals. Instead, we're collecting as many small improvements that we can in an attempt to finally create something that's noticeably better. This new 36 all-mountain is a prime example of this, and you can do more than mount it to a binder or a wall. One of the most challenging things about reviewing suspension is that the differences aren't always immediately apparent. Last spring, Logan and I went back and forth comparing the outgoing Grip 2 damper against that brand new Grip X. We had a hard time telling the exact differences on the trail. But since then, I've ridden 7 more of these Grip X forks and noticed that I have consistently fewer sketchy moments with the newer damper than I ever expected. I've also noticed that it takes these forks a while to break in, especially the early production units we started riding a full 12 months ago. I've also ridden Grip X2 forks on the Pivot Trail 429 Enduro, the Pivot Trail Cat, and the Santa Cruz Hightower 4. All 3 have, well, felt a little bit different. Once they do eventually break in, they all feel both better and more consistent. But I want to stress that it takes quite a bit of riding to really evaluate a new fork. With this in mind, I did not expect to feel a world of difference between the new 36 all-mountain and the outgoing fork. Thankfully, today in 2025, both Grip X and Grip X2 dampers are dialed in after a full year of production, and they do work very well. Now with the damper piece of the metaphorical puzzle fitted into place, it's time for Fox to look under the table and inside the vacuum to find any missing pieces needed to finally solve the front-end puzzle of the modern mountain bike. To show us the new tech, Fox brought Logan and me down to their newest facility in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. We're here at Fox's new Scottsdale facility, and we're gonna learn about a bunch of new stuff coming out for 2026. Let's head inside and learn about the new forks, all kinds of new stuff. Ooh, that's cool. For the new fork, Fox has shifted its attention to where they felt improvements haven't been made in quite some time. The chassis was ripe for opportunity, and with the goal of improving the sensitivity, smoothness, and plushness of the fork, Fox went to town with small tweaks and updates. Very nice. 36 Grip X2, replacing a 36 Grip X2. Sorry, I should not jiggle this around. Is this helpful? If I shake it, is that good? To arrive at ultimate smoothness or plushness, Fox is working to eliminate any unnecessary flex that can create binding within the fork stroke. I've also noticed that Fox never uses the word plush, so I'm going to use it as much as I can. For the last few years, the Fox 38 has had better small bump sensitivity than the 36 series, and that's been due to the increase in stiffness. The goal of the new 36 was to reach a similar level of stiffness, all in the name of being more plush. So why did Fox put all this effort into the fork's chassis? Let's go into the shop and talk about it. The first thing we'll look at are the new lowers, which visually are made distinctive by the addition of these speed holes, compared to the prior. Now, when Fox set out to design this, they wanted to make it as stiff as possible, and they used a new generative computer program, which I don't know how it works, but apparently it builds an imaginary product from the ground up in the best possible configuration. And this is as close as they could get to, in theory, the most optimal shape. It's a lot of marketing mumbo jumbo. They claim 20% stiffer, and the fork does indeed feel very stiff. These bypass channels on the back of the 36 help allow air to transfer to the lowers to create a larger air volume. Now for the new year, Fox has moved these bypass channels to the inside, and this should help increase fore-aft stiffness just a little bit. A big part of why the new fork feels so incredibly good is due to something called bushing overlap. Let's explain that a little bit. So this right here, this gold thing is called the stanchion. It's also called the uppers because it's the upper part of the fork that goes to your bicycle. The orange bit, these are the lowers. There's a set of bushings in here that the stanchions travel within. Let's show you what that's like. So here's an example. Right here are the uppers, the stanchions. These slide on the lower on these Teflon coated bushings. Can you see those? Each fork leg has 2 bushings, one near the top, and then the other set down in there is as far down as they can really be. Fox figured out they could lower the lower bushing an extra 30 millimeters to create a way stiffer fork. With these bushings moved to be further apart, the fork has less leverage against them and it prevents any kind of side-to-side motion, making for a smoother fork that's less likely to bind up through its travel. It's a small difference, but these small differences really do add up. The point of all this was to get the 36 to ride as stiff as the 38, but still at that lighter weight of the 36 chassis. And how does it work? Well, I feel it absolutely delivers. Yeah, I might just, it'd be kind of cool that air, it's kind of sketchy running in. I'll try to just hit the side of this thing. Go medium slow. One of the coolest bits of tech is that the 36 all-mountain fork has a new air spring. In a massive marketing blunder, Fox does not have any fun terms to define this new tech, so I'll call it wibble wobble technology. A big part of why this fork is so plush is a new air spring design, and Fox thought of something pretty cool here. Traditionally, a Fox air spring, just like this one here, you can tell it's Fox because it's covered in slick honey. It's a very rigid mounted thing with the piston very firmly attached to the shaft. Now that's great and all, but as this wiggles around, as you're flexing the fork, it's also putting side loads between the piston and the walls of the stanchion where it slides. Let me show you what the actual air chamber looks like. The top cap on the fork goes right up here, and that's what you're pumping all your air into when you're adjusting your spring rate. We always want our piston to go vertically up and down, but sometimes we're flexing the lowers so hard that that shaft gets moved fore aft a little bit, and that can put some weird side loads and bind up your spring. Not anymore. But for 2026, Fox has updated this in a cool way. Fox calls it compliant airspring technology. I call it wibble wobble technology. Fox has essentially separated the shaft here that pushes on the airspring from the actual piston. And they've made a little bit of compliance between the two so that in case there's any flexing of your fork, it's not then moving the piston sideways and making it bind up with side loading inside your fork leg. New design allows for a little bit of movement between the two to keep things going more smoothly and more true. And I feel like I do notice that on the trail. A few other small details. Fox is now natively using a 200 millimeter post mount. The new air bleeder valves are a little bit easier to use and shouldn't break when you're on certain chairlifts. There is new fender mounting using 4 bolts, a little bit harder to use, but hopefully doesn't break when you're at Whistler. And finally, one of my favorite little updates. No longer do you need a proprietary 32 mil chamferless socket to remove top of your air cap to add volume reducers. Fox is now using a cassette lockering tool, just like one of their top competitors. This is a cool upgrade. I like volume reducers. I tend to huck to flat. I don't know about you. Leave me a note in the comments down below how often you huck to flat. I would fill those comments if I commented. Now, this is all a lot of changes. Individually, some might be noticeable, but combined, and these become the best forks I've ever ridden. I already have grown to love the Grip X, but this configures the new damper into such a better modern chassis that I've never ridden another fork this forgiving. With all these forks I rode back in 2024, it's wild how some would feel immediately good and others might need a couple of weeks. Regardless, both of these forks that I tested here have felt extremely free and supple right away. This in turn inspired me to ride with a bit of reckless abandon. I have added volume reducers to both forks as that's pretty easy to do. I enjoy running both high-speed compression adjusters about halfway into their ranges. Weighing quite a bit less than average at only 175 pounds, it's pretty cool that I can have that much available control, yet not have the fork's small bump sensitivity and plushness take a turn for the worse. We came around the corner and all we saw was like a ramp up. Couldn't see anything else, came up here, and it's a sweet rock roll to like 3-foot drop into just dusty trough with yet more rocks, and then a corner at the bottom. Even though I live in the Northwest with like lots of bigger rock stuff, I'm still a little bit nervous staring this thing down for the first time. This bike is fine and great and all that, and I could talk about how the fork's gonna make things easier, harder, yada yada. It's not true, it's all the rider. But it is sweet knowing I've got a lot of suspension and good damping. I got it relatively cranked up, more support. And I think it's time to stop talking and start riding.
That looks sweet from down here.
Nice. It looked like nothing.
It's a cave in that rock.
Nice.
Yeah. Looks like nothing. Perfect. So last year we tried out the Grip X technology in Santa Cruz, and it was cool and all, but the difference was not like amazing right away. We had to break that fork in quite a bit to get it feeling better. That's not the case with this new 36 All Mountain. This thing's sweet. I don't know how many things are exactly different, but I think that new air spring technology is part of what's making it work better. But with just 2 or 3 hours on this fork, it's already feeling probably better than a broken in Grip X from last year. So I think there's some more tech in the fork and the lowers that's really helping it feel just more supple, more smooth. And then the Grip X damper feels a bit more refined. It's just working more predictably. I didn't even bottom out coming down through this rock garden. Like, I'm running it at maybe 3/4 in on the high-speed compression, pretty firm. But I'm excited to ride this fork more. So far, this is the best feeling Fox fork I've ever ridden, and we're only at like 3 hours. Oftentimes you need to break these in for a bit. So color me excited, and orange, and probably red if we hang out in the sun any longer.
These new forks are the real deal. Comfort and traction are both improved. Adding in that refined new damper, and the new forks will allow anyone to ride faster, send bigger, and safely take more chances. But a question I've had, as well as many of you have had, is just how different do these dampers feel on the trail? To answer that, Logan and I set sail in the name of discovery and did a bunch of back-to-back laps.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to compare Fox 36 All Mountain forks. We have one with the Grip X damper and one with the Grip X2 damper. And a fun way to compare these two forks is to do 4 runs down a trail. On this bike, I'm going to ride it with the Grip X2, and then I'm going to swap on the Grip X. So I've got a run on each. And then I'll go over to that bike and I'll do the same. I'll do a run with the Grip X and a run with the Grip X2. Then we'll have more of a back-to-back comparison of how the two forks feel. And to make this even better, we're joined with Logan here, who's gonna do the same experiment as well. So we'll have 2 opinions. We'll have 2 opinions, 2 forks, 2 bikes, and we're all gonna probably learn something. All right, I'll see you at the junction. Fork testing commence. First step, hug. Oh. Ew. Oh yeah. Oh. How is this hug to flat? Oh, nice. How was Grip X on the Ritmo?
Felt really nice. Yeah, I felt super open, really supple over the small stuff, but simultaneously supportive through pumping and bigger hits. Yeah, compared to my older previous generation fork, huge difference. Yeah. I think finally enough difference that I would want to spend the money to upgrade.
I've been riding that 36 Grip X2 for a few days now on the Hightower 4, and I love that thing. It just feels bomber and supportive. It feels basically like a 38 in terms of just stout and solid. The 36 Grip X, in my experiences, is more of a playful fork. It's easier to get it cycling and feels more forgiving. So we'll see if it translates into more fun or just sketchier. So now that we've done a run, we're gonna swap forks and stay on the same bike. So my next run is gonna still be on the Hightower 4, but I'm gonna put the Grip X damper equipped 36 All Mountain up front, and I'll get a direct A to B comparison between those 2 forks, same bike, same trail, same day. Same.
Oh, I think I bottomed out pretty hard there last time. I didn't on this fork. I think what you said about that fork feeling more playful, I would probably agree with. I think for general trail riding, I might lean toward that fork. But if I was riding a lot faster, gnarlier, rougher trails, this fork almost feels a little more bomber.
For me, that Hightower 4 is more of like an enduro bike. It's longer, slacker, and it's a bit more glued to the ground. I'd rather have the Grip X2 on the Hightower. And then to me, the Ritmo is poppier, more playful, a more lively bike. I'd rather have the Grip X on the more lively bike. If you wanted to set one bike up to work in another scenario and make up for its deficiencies, you could do, I think you could do that. I haven't experimented with the Ritmo yet.
Trail score.
Now, we're gonna trade bikes. I'm gonna hop on the Ibis Ritmo, set up with that Float 36 Grip X2. And I'm gonna adjust the pressure of both the rear shock and the fork to suit my weight. Logan's doing the same, but with the Hightower 4 and the 36 Grip X.
I think handles easier. Ew. Wow. Wow. Missed my little manual, that's okay.
I feel like this fork set up the same on the Ritmo, felt more plush on the Ritmo than it does on this bike. That's the only thought I have really. It still feels good, but I almost felt like it was a noticeable better feel on the Ritmo.
After another fork swap, I'm now on the Ibis Ritmo setup with that Float 36 Grip X, and Logan's on the Hightower 4 with the heavy-duty Grip X2.
So wrapping this all up, after the 4 runs, 2 on each bike, each run with a different fork on it, I'm surprised at the differences. It's not night and day different, it's fairly subtle. The forks definitely overlap. I preferred riding that fork, the Grip X2. I preferred riding the Grip X2 on the bigger bike, the Hightower. I know it's the same amount of travel on both bikes, but the Hightower, to me, if it's 1 degree slacker head tube angle, longer wheelbase, it feels like a bigger bike overall. On the smaller bike, the Ritmo, the more nimble bike, I liked having the slightly smaller, slightly more open Grip X. Both forks worked fantastic when they were swapped. This generation of fork is worth the upgrade, definitely over the old Grip 2 from like 2 model years back. Last year's Grip X was really good. Differences are mostly in the air spring and the small bump sensitivity. This is better, but last year was still pretty good. So yeah, that's how I feel about this. Let's check in with Logan.
Everything that he just said. Who knows how real this is, but it almost seemed as if, yeah, the Grip X2 felt more plush when I had it on the Hightower versus when I had it on the Ritmo. I do think the way that the forks are now with the Grip X on this bike, the Grip X2 on this bike, I think it's kind of suited for these 2 slightly different types of bikes. It's a very hard to, it's very hard to compare 2 things that are really, really good. That's about all I got.
That works. Thank you all for tuning in. This is probably buried within a much longer video, but if it's not, be sure to hit the like button down below if you like watching mountain bike content. Hit the subscribe button if you want to occasionally watch Logan hit jumps. And Logan's also got a YouTube channel if you want to see him hide old dirt bikes in the woods and then go pretend to find them.
No, you can't start that rumor.
But anyhow, subscribe to my channel before you all run away, and let me know in the comments which bike, which fork you'd rather ride, and why we're wrong about all this. All right, guys, I'll see you in those comments down below. Peace and wheelies.
Last year, I did my best to be objective about Grip X. It was good, but not a must-buy on its own. This year, the new chassis really allows Grip X to shine, and I'm much more excited about the overall new fork. Huge thanks to Jensen USA for sponsoring this video, and I'll link to all the Fox 36 forks available at Jensen down in the description below. Big thanks to Jensen USA, to Fox, to Logan, and to all of you for joining us. Peace and wheelies, everyone.
Oh, that's nice.
Just don't fall off the bridge, but if you do, feel free to hit that subscribe button.